January 28th, 2021. I could see the light just, I mean, it comes in and it just hits. It's frustrating. I'm watching a replay of NTD News. The date that I recorded it was on January 26th, 2022. It had an interesting visual announcement. It says that Slovak, which I don't know, I don't know what that means in depth. I very surface the letters glued together as one way to make sounds. I don't know if that means Slovenian. Is that a country? Is that a company? Je ne sais pas. I don't know. Non so. But they have produced a flying car. Now, this concerns me greatly because I know I wrote an essay as a third grader and I submitted it to the college board that I was not in favor of flying cars. I am frightened of the people on the road. The transportation in the state of New York and interstate in North America has become so dangerous with them driving on the road. They drive into one another, the humans. They're just, but it's not my level of human. These are humans that come and seem to be arriving. I say the criminal children from everywhere because nothing looks familial anymore. So I don't know how they're arriving or how they're choosing these new residencies. That's a whole nother topic. But I wrote the essay that I did not want a car flying over my head for fear that who's going to regulate the airspace? It would just cause more pollution and congestion. And for what purpose? Just so one person can feel some enjoyment? What about the rest of the people on the ground that you put in danger? But here we are. That we have a visual interpretation of one human who created one, somehow was granted through some agency the allowance to develop one. He then got an ad on the TV or a highlight spot. And then now my fear is I have to worry about the million and billionaire idiots at some level that gamble with the humans' lives down below that they never think of. Because now they're going to want to investigate this and invest in this idea and cause dangerous and toxic conditions because the manufacturing causes toxic. But, and then it goes to like he's got a car with wings. Great. Not really impressed. There's Cessna level in America that they're also featuring, but on CBS this morning, where it doesn't have the wheels, it has to stay at the airport level for a reason, to make it harder for the criminal children of everywhere to get into the air and then transport. I mean, you have to think at some point law enforcement needs to be taken into consideration. They can't be chasing the evil children of everywhere and every evil plot and foil it, which causes the rest of us to have to patiently wait for the world to get better and nicer. And it really is a horrible century 20 waiting for that. I would so gladly participate in the fix and with management if only there was management somewhere that looked familial and looked safe to participate with. So this is what the TV spot of the new announcement, and then I'm going to take a pause and go to the old argument of personal transport and flight and everybody getting into the skies, doesn't matter, from any country, anywhere, and just arriving in your country and going, wait a minute, yeah.
Ford said it will also have the annual capacity to build 600,000 electric vehicles within 24 months. It's aiming to
This is
become the clear
personal
number 2
transport,
electric vehicle
driving
maker
on the
in North
ground, four
America,
wheels on the
behind
ground
Tesla.
for communication.
Getting in your car and flying to your holiday destination could be a reality within years. Slovakia's Transport Authority has approved a prototype of flying cars in line with standards by the European Aviation Safety Agency. Let's take a look.
Klein Vision is a Slovakian company that developed a prototype flying car called Aircar. They recently received an airworthiness certificate by the Slovak Transport Authority, meaning they are cleared for takeoff.
With this certificate, which has been achieved after 70 plus flight hours and 200 takeoffs and landings, we have confirmed that the technology is built in compliance with all the safety regulations imposed by EASA.
The current prototype can travel 310 miles and it requires 7.4 gallons of fuel. The co-founder of Klein Vision says they were inspired to create Aircar to deal with the problem of traffic jams.
See, now here's where the children of Earth and their evil cohorts are purposely trying to stir up trouble. They did the same thing with the other levels of aviation, which I'm going to put on now. Just because you can do it and your engineers are smart enough, they're talent, nobody is challenging your engineers' capabilities. Got it, there are really smart people in the world. What I don't understand is why those really smart people in the world are not doing really smart things and preventing this from getting in the hands of the evil children from elsewhere that you don't want to wind up in your backyard. Just because they caught on to your technology and now they were able to, and now it's going to be a hard defense on cutting back on that level of freedom. Okay, so here we are. Now another language I don't speak. Esto es CBS Nueva York. I'm in the state of New York. It is spelled on a cartographer's map, Newyork. Why is there teleportation coming in symbolic announcement with the wrong pronunciation of the state that I'm trapped in?
Nueva York. Some real FaceTime.
Next generation, including promoting some other workers to fill those vacancies. Errol Barnett got a look at the new program, and we find him at Reagan National Airport. Errol, I think this may be your opportunity to get your wings.
Hey, me, you, Tony, and everybody else. Good morning.
See this American?
Imagine that this six-figure job with generous benefits and
I'm Mount Rushmore American
American
and the Greenback American.
That was true even before the pandemic. So we went to my American home state of Arizona. We strapped in with the next generation of pilots to see how one of the biggest airlines in the country is taking.
Now, are these like residencies? Are these foundational kids? Like, I don't understand how they got permission to come here and to make all these changes and ruin the entire landscape with all of this frivolous allowances of travel that makes policing, management, and living so much more dangerous and so much more, like, I mean, I can't even find work or an education system, yet they seem to be educated elsewhere and then come in, which is putting me at a disadvantage, and then blocking me from being able to even live a mediocre life.
Taking a new approach
Because they come in with branded residency, like, clothing and stuff. I mean, they live a much better life when they're sent in.
Morning view in the Valley of the Sun.
It felt like a joyride. I love it. I love flying.
Mother of two, Ricky Foster, is at the
I've never been given this level of opportunity. Tiafrio mentioned, he was thinking of getting his pilot license. Could I find out how? And I'm like, I never even thought of being a pilot. All right. So I started researching it, and there's a college institution, one, that I found. But it's very expensive, and it's long. It's a long education just to take off in an aircraft.
the helm, learning the ropes with her flight instructor. A former flight attendant, she has been inspired to upgrade her wings.
Show me an excuse and I'll show you how you can overcome that, you know? Like, you're too old. Well, I'm 38. And there's someone in my class that's a little older than me. So we're just starting now. We're getting it done.
Well, I want to know, it's like, it's thousands of dollars of investment into that level of education. When you've had 4 kids, they were taken away, you lost your house, you're having health problems, and you have no income, how do you raise the money for that level of education? Since there's no scholarships, or at least they don't promote them, or they don't advertise them. I hate people like this. I can figure it out. No. Somebody gave you a hand out or a hand up. It's the only reason why you got somewhere in the world. Because without your networks and you're speaking to one another and knowing other people, you'd be nowhere.
Foster is one of 59 students in the inaugural classes of United Airlines Aviate Academy in Goodyear, Arizona. CEO Scott Kirby says this is their effort to combat the persistent staffing shortage on the flight deck, which has forced route reductions.
We've got over 100 regional aircraft that effectively aren't flying because there's not enough pilots to fly them.
By FAA regulation, pilots have to retire at age 65, and by one estimate, almost half of them will within 15 years. Couple that with the pandemic, which slowed the rate of new pilots taking to the skies, and it's almost impossible to keep pace with all the open seats.
One of the biggest sources for airlines was the military. The problem today is there are not that many pilots in the military. There are a lot of drone pilots, so that doesn't really help in terms of being able to bring people in.
United expects 50% of its pilots to come from this program, and half of those will be women and people of...
Women and people of color. I'm still standing in a country that has a national symbol of 4 profile, greenback with silver coins, with the profile of the ancestors and the founding fathers. Why are they operating out of a state of Arizona, out towards the Pacific coast, and promoting all of this when there are serious threats to national security that are cropping up and have been steadily for some time? There's 3 branches of government, supposedly, that operate out of a state just to my south. But they're under siege. They're being infected by the same thought process and insurgency. But yet they still have obligations in order to work, because if it's not working here, it puts other countrymen and other systems in jeopardy and out of balance. So I'm just confused as to how this takes off and this narrative keeps getting pushed forward as if it's acceptable. I mean, here on this TV, she seems like she's so willing to work with anybody, and she really would be a great whatever. I have other versions inside the city of New York that would like to rip my head off and not even participate with me and rather see me dead or locked up than to see me actually get to a paying job. Their whole mission is to absolutely snuff out my kind. So I'm just curious, when that exists, why is there so much rewarding instead of spending that reward money on making sure that the local city and metropolitan areas are handled properly so there's not this underlying seething anger and hatred? And then that would, in effect, by extension, put people in a more safe position and let them conduct themselves as they should as humans in a humane way and effort. But that's not the way that humanity is playing out, certainly from the late 19th century into the 20th century, with I don't know what's going on elsewhere. But yesterday I saw that one of the Supreme Court justices he makes a determination and a decision, and his law clerk looks something like this in some quiet, dangerous position, who's, by the way, been working steadily with him, almost like, it's guerrilla warfare tactics. It just is. I'm going to sit on top of you. I'm going to learn everything, inside secrets from the inside. I'm going to follow you, and I'm going to make sure that you perform in the way that I need you to perform. And so now he's had a long, lengthy career, and this quietly has been going on, and they've been mentioning that the democracy and the Republican and the House and the Senate and these words that they use that nobody knows how it actually works, has been making changes, but like in stacking results in the favor of this agenda, which puts people like myself at a disadvantage and all of my children at a disadvantage, but yet we have some responsibility here with being that we have a national monument in Mount Rushmore, and we have a profile that is set in stone. There's also set in stone elsewhere marble statues of my lineage and heritage and reoccurrence and reemergence with importance at whatever, large-scale projects. But I can't even mention those because I'd have no idea. I've never been able to get out of New York with all of this being some top priority for I don't know what reason. Now this piece comes on yesterday and is advertising United Nations, which has an outfit, an outrigger, or a building in New York City with all different patterned squares, which they call flags, but there's some like mini government outside of their normal country and territories making decisions that I have not even heard of, I don't have a say in, but they're in New York and they're not part of a Mount Rushmore or a greenback monetary profile.
And looking at urban solution. That's what floating city is all about. Not a small island city, but a big ocean cities, meaning that there are a lot of opportunity on the ocean for new, innovative and new ways of living in the future.
The idea of floating cities has been around since the 1960s, and I took it seriously. So I spent the last dozen.
I don't know how one gets to United Nations level. Like, are they a corporation? Are they a governmental body? Who are they? They don't I'm in the state of New York. They have a presence here, and yet the schools, the elementary, middle, and high schools, don't even mention them. Don't mention their presence. We have no idea what they are doing here. They're like some secret governing body. How do you find out what goes on between those walls and how much trouble they're making? Because by the looks of it, and my inability to afford myself and my children and find a proper marriage, might I add, that I was destined for, it seems like they're doing a hell of a job in everything that shouldn't be, like, whatever. I mean, if they have an artist and an engineer's conversation, where's the oversight board? Where's the oversight committee? Where's the, like, no, you can't do that. You don't have permission of the locals.
A dozen years trying to think through how we could get to this point.
I look forward to hearing more about the floating cities. If I take this to some of our country teams, they will need your experience and certainly partnerships down at the country level to help governments, to help communities, to help the science actually go further.
I'm hoping that very soon, as fast as we possibly can, try to have a prototype floating somewhere in coastal waters within the jurisdiction of a host city, something that we can actually study, so hopefully fast.
So, and it uses the United Nations logo.
You're watching QDTV, the City University of New York.
I am New York.
Now watch this.
New York.
I am New York.
Yo soy Nueva York.
Sono New York.
Just from New York.
We are New York.
Welcome to Diverse City, where we explore New York's eclectic enclaves, one neighborhood at a time.
Now, where does adversity and diversity emerge from? I'm just curious. Because I don't get I get their version, the criminals' version of what they're up to. What I don't get is what sparked their innovation and thought that they were allowed to perform this way. Star 1978, Star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It is Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe, Galaxy is broken. It's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361. And at this exact same time that they're all going on about how wonderful they all are, there is an exorbitant amount of light that comes in. This is almost like X-ray. It's 5G, but it's almost like, I mean, when you say Marie Curie and Pierre Curie and there's Swarovski, something along those lines, for the palladium. This is like palladium level lighting, X-ray technology, just coming through the air and damaging the skin. It's like melting the skin. I mean, gravity is really incredible. They're manipulating gravity as I try to walk. I'm no longer at a pace, I used to call it a Disney pace, where it was very fast and I could walk from like one end of town to the other really fast. Now it's like a stroll and it's like a shuffle of the legs. It is virtually impossible to increase the pace, P-A-C-E, the timing between bipedal movement. So there are real serious health consequences while all of this, whatever is going on with all of these children here, which I don't know if they're on residency from institutions, college, from medical. I don't know who issues those certificates. I don't know why it doesn't seem to be regulated properly and why all of the important regulation jobs seem to be being handled by the problem, increasing the numbers and making it more dangerous and harder to find help or answers.